I am Noelle Rollins. Welcome to How to Draw an Eye class. I'm so happy you're here. Today we are going to work on drawing freehand. We're going to kind of break down the shape of it, the different parts, and different angles from the side, looking kind of 3/4 view, break down a few different ways that we can draw an eye. So part of being an artist is to notice. And so what you'll start doing is you'll start noticing things when you talk to people. And we never notice with judgment. You just notice the beauty of all the different types of things. So you're kind of like part of this special club that gets to know that that is totally fun to do. And you don't really know till you know. So I'm so glad you're here today. Here's the supplies. Some sort of paper, pencil, eraser. Super simple. We're just going to sketch together and just enjoy. And I would love to hear if you're liking drawing eyes yet. What is your favorite one from today's lesson? I can't wait to hear what you think. All right, let's get started.
Okay, so before we get started drawing, I wanted to show you a few actual photos of eyes. So in this one, our subject is looking straight forward at us, and you can see the colored part of her eye is hidden a little bit by the top lid and a little bit by the lower lid as she is looking straight forward at us. You have the pupil in the middle, and as you can see on the pupil, it's not an exact straight line around the edge of it. And then you have a crease on the upper eyelid. And look at where the eyelashes start on the bottom lid. You can see that they're not right next to the eyeball. That's going to be important when you're drawing. All right, let's go to the next one. Okay, so here we have a magnified image of the iris and pupil of the eye. So you can see how the center part, the pupil, is black, but I love how we can see how it connects to the iris, the colored part of the eye. And you can see all of the fibers and how those being different colors or combination of colors creates the eye color. And depending on the light in the room or your emotions, that pupil will enlarge or contract and get smaller. So that's why people have, sometimes there's a larger black part in the middle of the eye and sometimes there's a smaller part. But I thought this would be a great thing to see so we can understand more as we start to draw it. So here we have an eye when we're down and looking up at the eye. And this person is looking up as well. So we're looking up into their eyelid. You can see their eyelash line is not directly connected to the eyeball. It's about halfway in between the crease of the eye, and it starts to get tucked into that. So you can see on the left above the iris, you can see the eyelashes coming out from that fold. And you can also see the iris placement where it is up and to the left, and we see almost the entire bottom part of the colored iris, but the rest is tucked into the lid, which really helps us to know that they're looking up. So here we have another eye. This one is looking a little bit from the side, and we're looking in at it while they look straight ahead. This is called an epicanthal fold or a monolid, and this is where the lashes will come from underneath where the top lid is. And then if you look on the bottom lid, you'll see where the eyelashes start a little bit away from the eyeball. And then when we have this angle, you can almost see into where the tear duct is. But you can notice there's still a little bit of the white of the eyeball between the iris and where that tear duct is. So we will practice drawing this one today in a little while. So here we have a young girl, toddler age, and she's looking away from us, and we're looking from about the same angle we did on the last eye. And you can see the eyelashes, how they're coming out, and the far eye, you can see how you can see them right over the background. They come out past where the edge of her face is. And on this, only the white of the eyeball shows on the view or our left side. The rest is all the colored part. And then she has creases on her eyelids that then tuck and kind of start to get hidden by the eyelashes. Okay, so now that we've seen several different eye types, let's get drawing. So I wanted to draw just the basic eyeball, and we're going to show how it fits into the socket with the lids. So you just have the eyeball, the iris, and then the pupil is that center dot. You can practice this at home, just drawing 3 circles, one within the other. And now I'm showing how the opening of the eyelid, just one example, obviously, as we just saw, depending on the angle and how open the eye is, this can change, but I just wanted to give you a general idea. You can start to see why people have creases or wrinkles in different parts above and below their eyes based on how the skin falls over the eye socket and the bones and the actual eyeball. So very rarely when you're drawing an eye will the complete iris show. So notice that almost always, at least the top part will be tucked away into the lid. And then you can see I'm just going in and erasing the part of the circle of the eyeball that you wouldn't actually see in the drawing. So you can go ahead and pause this if you would like to also replicate this. It's just a fun way to break down the basics of an eye. We're going to do a few different eyes today, and this is just the first one. So with pencil too, it's not as important to have just one solid line. As you can see, I do a whole bunch of times where I will do short little strokes and I'll backtrack on my strokes and round them out. That's just part of whatever your style is. I find that the easiest. And then you'll have the pupil and some sort of reflection. We're not going to work on shading today, but I did want to just work on coloring the iris and the pupil. I think it just would look a little different if we didn't have any. And oftentimes around the outer part of the iris, it also gets a little bit darker. Sometimes there's a shadow up there on the top, underneath where the top lid comes down. This can be created by the eyelashes or just depending on where the light is coming from. And notice how I am doing all of my brush strokes from the outside into the center. So I'm doing them in a circular way, like rays coming from a sun. So this way I can kind of imply how the color of the iris is. And now for the eyelashes, I am going from the lash line, and every lash is curved. Towards the inner part of the eye, they are curving up towards the inner eye and then up, and then the middle they start to kind of cross over, and then in the outer part of the eye they go out and then up. And on the bottom lash, like I pointed out in the photo, we start a little away from the eyeball and we just do little crisscross hairs, not as obvious. And I don't worry, often people's eyelashes are not noticeable all the way into where the tear ducts are in the inner eye. So we can just imply, but this is just a very basic way, if you would like to start practicing eyes, that you can do this. And you can do this with pencil, and then if you want to, you could come back in with marker, colored pencil, watercolors, or anything and color that iris. Now later, when we would finish shading this, we would shade the white part of the eye so you can tell that it's rounded, and we would shade the creases as well. For this next eye, we are going to work on a toddler eye. So I'm starting by drawing the upper lid, and it's curved. It almost looks like a lemon shape right now. And I want you to picture that you have a toddler standing in front of you and they are looking to your left, and then you say something and they kind of give you a little side eye look. And so this is their left eye, the one that's closest to us, but they're looking to our left and then they're kind of glancing back at us. So you can see the iris is on the outer part of the eye, and we've drawn in the pupil. and then the reflections. And now I'm drawing in the upper lid crease. So the thing about babies and toddlers is their eyeballs are bigger in comparison to the rest of them. That's why babies are always portrayed with such cute, big, dramatic eyes, and puppies and all the things like that. Especially you've seen this in cartoons. And so here I am going in and just like the last one, almost like a sunshine, drawing all of those fibers that we saw in that earlier photo of the iris. Now the iris is so much bigger compared to the eyelids and the whole eye in general. This iris takes up most of the opening of the eye because it's a little toddler. So that's a little clue that you can give to people when they see your art. When the eyes are a little bit larger like this, they'll start to notice that that is someone younger. So I'm avoiding those highlight parts that I've circled, and then the rest I'm just going around and shading, lightly filling this in. Don't worry about being too exact again. You can always erase if you go too far. You could also choose to color right over those highlights and go in and erase them after if you felt like that was easier for you. So we'll just kind of fill this pupil in a little darker. Normally with drawing pencils, there are pencils that have softer lead, and so that you could do those darker lines really easily. So now for the eyelashes, we go to the left and then up when it's on the inner side, just based on our perspective. And then I go through with somewhere less of an angle, and I kind of merge those styles by kind of X's. When you're doing eyelashes, you don't have to do them exactly spaced apart. That's just not really how it normally is in real life. And then on the bottom lashes, you'll notice that I tend to either overlap them or I turn them into almost like a V where I have the edges meet. And then we won't go all the way. We just do that outer part. And there's not a ton of lashes. This little girl did have big, beautiful eyelashes. But you can get the idea here of what we're doing. And then later when we shade it, we would shade the tear duct, we would shade the crease, the eyeball to show the roundness. And we could do a little more shading on the lashes, both the top and bottom. So you can see how the eyeball would fit in, and most of it is hidden behind the lid and then to the right. And that is a toddler eye. So here we have an eye looking straight forward. This gentleman is not wearing any makeup, so it's just a very natural look. And as you notice, his eyes are not as lemon-shaped as the toddler eyes are. They're more of an elongated opening. So I'm lightly sketching in the upper crease here. And then we have the tear duct on the left and then the outer eyelid on the right. And so on this one, you can see that the iris tucks into the top lid and also under the bottom lid. And his eyes are a little more dilated. The photo that I used for this was a little bit darker. And so what happens is when it's dark, your eyes open up a little more to try to take in more light. So you can choose when you're drawing if you want to make that accurate with the pupil big or small. Or you can use some artist discretion and make it the size you'd like. So for him, he has a dark eyelashes. And so I'm going in right here and kind of making the eyelash line. There's part where you could see a little bit of the skin of the upper lid beneath the lash line, and then also where the eyelashes kind of are reflected. even sometimes people with dark hair, when the sunlight or light is reflecting off the eyelashes, you may see lighter tones within them. And so that's always a fun and challenging part to draw. So there I am filling in the pupil. And again, with the out sunshine style rays radiating out to make up the iris. This gentleman had brown eyes, which is hard to express with just the pencil. With drawing pencils, you could do it a little bit easier because you could use, like I said before, a softer pencil that would make a darker mark. So this is a special sharpener that I'm using here that's typically used for colored pencils, but it just sharpens it at a little longer of an angle, which makes a little sharper of a point. But any pencil sharpener you have is just fine. And the reflection in this image is, instead of like the last one was just 3 small dots, this one's just a little longer. And again, you can use discretion if you want to change how the shape of that reflection is, or you can do it exactly like your reference photo shows it. So now for his eyelids, I like to start wherever the strongest part is of them, and I go from there. He doesn't have super thick or long eyelashes, so we're just going to keep it pretty simple. So now in the middle, you'll see we'll start to kind of have them up on that lash line, and then they go down and dip over a little bit. So it seems like it would be really strange and hard to draw, but as you can tell, we're just not showing them super dramatic. And then the viewer just sees that the lashes are coming straight at them and just barely peeking up. And the same thing with the lower lashes here. We're going to start a little away from that inner lash line and just really light, small, curved lashes. Trying to overlap them every few lashes. I always start off a little heavier and then I lighten on my pencil as I do the stroke. So the end of the lash is lighter than the beginning. And then in between, I put a couple little dash marks that just imply the lash line, since he had a pretty strong lash line. And so then we would come in and draw where the eyeball meets the tear duct area. When we do colored pencil later, that part will be more of a pink color. And then we will shade the white of the eyeball. When you really start to look close at people's eyeballs, very rarely are they bright white. We have little blood vessels in there. They're shading from what's around them in the room, how the sunlight or light in the room is shadowing. There's all kinds of things that can affect that. For this next eye, we have a right eye looking outward. So looking away and up from their nose. How are we doing so far? Are you liking seeing the different types of eyes and all the different angles? This is a great video because you can do it all at once, or you can come back and just work on a different eye each day if you'd want to. So this one, we can see her tear duct that I just did there. And you can also see that the bottom lid in this one is a lot more curved than the top lid. So that's the first time we've seen that so far. She has a couple of creases on the upper lid. And because we are looking from over the nose at the eye, we're seeing things at a little different angle than we would. That's why the crease is a little higher up on the inside part of the eye. And what you'll notice is the lash line as well. We're going to kind of get to see on the outer part where I was just drawing. That part, the lashes are up a little higher than where that lid meets the eyeball. So you kind of get to see a little different angle here. So there's just a little bit of the white around the edge of the iris that shows through over there. And now this eyeball, because it's at such an angle, it's almost not going to come off as looking totally round. It's almost more of an oval egg shape. So I'm filling in the iris there. And then as you can see, it's just slightly longer than it is wide. And a big highlight that I left. Now there's a lot of shadowing up there at the top where the eyelid and lashes are shadowing the iris. So you can draw along with me on each of these, or you can pause the video when we get to the end and you can see the eye and then pause it and work to recreate what I've drawn here. So now you can see I'm going to just keep filling in that iris. And we can tell that she's looking up a little bit because we can see the white underneath the iris. It's not very often you see white underneath the colored part of the eye. And so her eyelid, where the lash line is what I'm drawing in now. And you can see it's up higher than where the lid meets. So again, we go away from the center of the eye and up, away and up. And then as we get to the middle, the angle changes where we're now looking from the side a little bit. So instead of just straight up, it's going to go towards the center of the eye. And these inner ones are going to even overlap the eyeball. If you guys have any questions about this part, ask me in the comments and I can do either another detailed video or I can answer your question. And so then you can see where the lashes keep coming to the side, and now here's the start of the bottom lashes. And again, they start off a little bit more straight out, and now they're going almost up and down more as we get towards the inner part of the eye. And so again, once we do shading, this one will be a fun one to shade where we can really show the shape of the eyeball and the lid and get a little more dramatic with the eyelashes. And then I always, with colored pencils, come back in and just add an extra layer on the eyelashes where they need them to just really accentuate. So that's where the nose would be, and the eyebrow would be up there. And then where my fingers are would be the edge of the face. Okay, while we look at this eye for another couple of seconds here, why don't you put your arms up and stretch out tall. Stretch them out to the side. Sometimes the hard part about drawing is it means a lot of sitting sometimes, and your body can get a little stiff. So do you remember at the beginning of this video when I showed you the person with the monolid? We are going to draw that person now. So we're starting by drawing the upper lid and how it curves around on the eye. So monolids can also be called epicanthal folds. They're most common with people of East Asia, such as China, Korea, Japan, or Mongolia. But people of any race or ethnicity can have monolids. So I think it's a fun type of eyelid to practice drawing and really celebrate the different types of features that we all have. So as you can see on this one, the upper lid starts off a little more dramatic and then it comes down at a pretty straight angle. And the bottom lid is pretty even with a curve throughout. This is almost the same angle of the last eye that we drew, but we're looking at the right eye this time. So probably most similar as an angle to the toddler eye, if that can help give you a feeling. So there still is some slight, just normal skin wrinkles on the eyelid. Nothing too extreme. And just like the other eyes that we've drawn, the lash line on the bottom starts away from where it meets the eyeball. And there's a pretty heavy shadow here. Also where the eyelashes are going to come out from tucked underneath the eyelid. So I'm going to start shading that as well. So we'll just fill in the pupil here. I kind of tend to switch between doing circular strokes, and then sometimes I'll do little straight ones. Sometimes I'll do the kind of make an edge around the iris. That also helps give me a little bit of a buffer for when I start doing these sun ray style lines going around. So I tend to draw pretty fast, and that can be a good thing or a bad thing. There's no right way or right speed to draw. But if it takes you a little longer, don't feel bad. Just pause the video till you catch up. That's something also going forward that I'll try to work on. Just going a little slower. Especially as you're learning, it takes a little bit longer sometimes to really see each feature. So now I'm drawing the lashes. So on the other lid, where the last eye where I started a little bit above the eye where it meets the eyeball, here where the eyelashes are coming out are hidden. So we're just making them come right from underneath that line of the upper lid. And this person didn't have really long lashes that I used as the photo reference. So we're keeping them pretty short. And then on the bottom lid, I'm doing the kind of X's and V's. And then in between, I'm doing some really tiny little dash marks that can help just imply a lash line without having to just draw a straight line across. And we'll go through and we'll just show that lash line a little bit more. Especially the older people get, their lash lines tend to get a little thinner and thinner. So it's not uncommon if you're drawing pictures of people that are your parents' age or grandparents that their lashes may be thinner. The same thing sometimes with eyebrows. So then we kind of get a little side view into the tear duct area here. And then this part we would show a lot more with shading once we do shading. And just go in and re-show you where the edges of the iris are. The lines of where the lids meet the eyeball. Just kind of darken everything up now that I'm sure I got it in the right place. It's almost as if this eye is looking at the hand that's drawing it. So you can get an idea then of a different type of eyelid and eye. I myself have something called hooded eyelids where it's hereditary and my top lids tend to droop a little bit. And so sometimes you don't see the fold farther up like you do on some other people. So it's just important to note that everybody's eyelids are a little bit different, and that can make it really fun and bring excitement into drawing different types of people. All right, now as I rip off that piece of paper and drawing and I set it aside, you can do the same. And then we have a fresh piece ready for our next eye. Now this is the last eye that we're going to work on in this video. This is the eye of a senior citizen. So you can see the curve of the eyelids where the tear duct is on the left side there. Now typically what's going to happen when you draw people that are older is they're going to have more creases in their lids, both on the top and on the bottom. Also, what can happen is you'll start to notice the line of the edge of the iris can be a little bit more blurry, cloudy colors almost within the iris, and sometimes more blood vessels and things like that. So as I've drawn where the eyeball meets the tear duct and then the lower lid, now I'm drawing a few reflections. This person's iris the pupil was pretty small. And so some of this is just a choice that you get to make as the artist. How many of the wrinkles and lines do you want to draw? I tend to think of what my goal is with the picture. If I am drawing just for the sake of art and I really want to work on my skill, then I love to draw every wrinkle, every pore, every hair. I love all of that. Now, when I drew a picture of my grandma that I gave to her, I didn't want to be insulting, even though I think she's beautiful and has earned every one of those wrinkles. I didn't know if she would feel the same way. So instead, I minimized the wrinkles just a little bit. And that's something that you can make a judgment call about. There's every single person. I was just doing a drawing recently of my son from when he was 11, and he has pores and there's creases in his skin and the start of wrinkles. It's nothing that we should be ashamed of, but it is good to be aware that sometimes people are sensitive of it. So if you're not sure if you're doing a gift for someone, then maybe you could ask someone who knows if that person would like you to show all of them or not. Otherwise, just show them lightly. So here we are. The lashes aren't quite as long as maybe they once were. They're not quite as curved. And there's very sparse lashes on the bottom. And then also the wrinkles of the eye that come out. All right, you guys, you did it. Here are each of the eyes we worked on today, if you want to see them again to reference them. All different angles. So you can save or pause this video and redraw them at any point here. And you can practice. I'm really proud of you for being here. Here's my puppy and ducks and chickens as I say goodbye to you. So I will do another video of a couple more eyes that you can draw. I'll drop it in a couple days for you here. So keep your eye out. And we will continue working on eyes. We're going to start adding shading, and then we're going to do some really fun colored pencil work. So I can't wait to do that with you. I'm so happy you're here. Have a wonderful day. Bye.